This is Ark Survival Ascended, except with a rather large twist. Throughout this whole playthrough, I will only have 1 HP, meaning I will spend the entire time on the brink of death. I wanted to see if it was possible to beat the entire island map with just a singular HP, so sit back, grab your popcorn, and enjoy my pain and suffering. Oh, I also stream this challenge over on Twitch. I play Ark Wrong all the time over on there, so why not come and drop me a follow? Spawning in on the beach, it was day 1 of our adventure with our absolute beast of a character. I immediately got off to a rocky start as I was reminded just how difficult the start of this challenge was going to be. Dead. It appears it's got a little bit hot. Spawning back in, I somehow managed to confuse an alpha megalodon and dodged his attacks and lived to see another day. Did you see that? That was insane. That was insane. I properly began my journey on the southwest coast of the map near the red obelisk. Not only had I found a spot on the map that I wasn't dying to heat in, but there were also these bushes that I could harvest thatch and wood from, which were not in Ark Survival Evolved, and this would allow me to make up some tools and then make myself up a little thatch shack and a bed, in the hope this would allow me to get through the night without dying. This, however, was not going to be the case. Oh, for God's sake, man. Oh. I just punched the bed. I was trying to zoom out and now I can't respawn at the bed. After making the fatal error of punching my bed, I spent the early morning attempting to get back up to where I'd put down my starter bed. When you are on the beaches and naked of only a singular HP though, there are many dangers, which can include both an itchy illness and the cold. Eventually though, as the morning warmed up, I did manage to get back to my stuff, and nearby I found myself a parasaur, which I decided would be my first tame of the challenge. This would massively help with my narco berry farming, and upon taming I unlocked and made the saddle, before running away as fast as possible as I spotted a nearby Carno. Unfortunately, despite thinking that I had got away from the Carno, it had actually spotted me after all, and it wasn't long before the parasaur, and thus the first tame of this challenge, bit the dust. To make matters worse, a pack of nearby raptors then found me, and despite my best efforts to get away, it was never going to work. So I found myself back on the beaches once more with no gear, although I did now have a Pego Mastax as it launched itself at me as I was happening to put berries in my hotbar. I left the Pego on the beach, and then with a raft I sailed further west in the hope of getting away from the Carno and raptor territory that I was apparently in. This was where I might be finally able to make a bit of progress finally. But first, I need to talk to you guys about OnceHuman. OnceHuman is a recently launched post-apocalyptic open-world survival game that I have always wanted to try. In OnceHuman, you can unite with friends to fight monstrous enemies, uncover secret plots, compete for resources, and build your own territory. You will also have limitless survival freedom, where you will explore the vast open land, encountering and shooting deviant monsters such as the bus monsters or treemen. On top of this, there are plenty of quests to complete, an enormous map to explore, challenging dungeon bosses to defeat, great loot to acquire, a diverse script life, PvP and PvE experiences to share. Honestly, I could go on all day about what feels like a limitless amount of stuff to do in OnceHuman. I absolutely love the new pet system in OnceHuman called Deviation. These pets do add so much to the game experience, as your pets aid you in both survival and combat, a feature I would love to have in Ark. As this is an Ark video, of course, I have to tell you about the Chefsaurus Rex, an adorable creature that can help players with cooking. It can only be captured by challenging one of the many secret hidden dungeons in OnceHuman, and these dungeons are some of my favourite things about the game. Gaming in recent years has also become increasingly pay to win, and even with our beloved Ark with the introduction of the Prio main, we have unfortunately seen this. But OnceHuman doesn't subscribe to this model. In a refreshing change, equipment is entirely based on effort, with rare gold tier equipment obtained through continuous gameplay. With only cosmetic in-game skins being purchasable, so much content including in-game pets are simply acquired through exploration and discovery in the open world without the need for spending money. My personal favourite thing about OnceHuman is the ability to play through the game with my friend. OnceHuman is a game that just feels right when played with other people, and it's an absolute blast to play with some of your buddies. So make sure that you and your friends download OnceHuman using my link in the description on Steam, and get all of your friends on board for some post-apocalyptic supernatural action. And as I arrived there, I tried to take out a nearby Theomia, but it was insistent on going into the water. Stop it going into the water! However, I did manage to get myself another parasaur knocked out and tamed, which was nice. Now, Herbivore Island is the ultimate starting place when you only have 1 HP, and why I didn't make my way over here sooner, I'm not really sure. It has good metal spawns, and of course Pteranodon spawns also, which can be tamed in peace, which is exactly what I did when I found this level 100 on the island. With that taming up, I made myself up a set of metal tools with the metal that I had smelted up, and then set foot into Lava Cave, which can be found on the southeast of the map, just opposite Herbie Island. I had mainly come in here to grab some crystal from the crystals that can be found on the ceiling, but also to try and gather some chitin, so that I could make myself a Pteranodon saddle. Inside, however, I soon found myself face to face with an Onyx, and with 1 HP, that was not going to end well for me. Oh my god. Hello? What? My raft has just Titanicked. After ASA did, well, ASA things, I returned back inside the cave to gather my stuff. However, in my efforts to gather some chitin, the cave suddenly got warmer, which meant in about a second I burnt to death. To add insult to injury, upon returning to the cave, I couldn't find my body at all, and realised then that it must have been meshed, as it wasn't showing on the death tracker at all. There's a compy on the raft. There is a compy on the raft. We have a stowaway. So I had to cut my losses and head back to Herbivore Island to remake my gear. With some gear remade, I headed up north with my parasol, as I decided that we wanted to live there for the drop spawns, as well of course for the dino spawns such as high-level Rexes, which we were going to need to defeat the bosses of the island. So with that in mind, I decided to raft off to Carnivore Island, to see what I could find Rex-wise over there. However, things soon took a turn for the worse when a Carno snuck up behind me and knocked our dear parasol off the raft. Despite my efforts to kill the Carno, I was unsuccessful, and our second poor parasol was the next casualty of this challenge. I did manage to actually knock this Carno out though, although after running into these Sabertooths, it was quickly forgotten about. This is because after a little bit of Bowl of God action, I was able to take out the Sabertooths and harvest them up. This then gave me the remaining keratin that I needed to make myself a saddle for the Pteranodon, and we soon took to the skies and I could then finally explore the map a bit more. The problem was, as I approached the swamp and redwood biome, I had seemingly forgotten how brutal the temperature on this map can get sometimes. Ah, we're dead. We're dead. We're dead. We're dead. We're dead. Yes! Get in! So with my Pteranodon now lost and abandoned in possibly the worst possible position, I spawned back in to see my newly tamed Carno being murdered by an Argentavis. This is not what I wanted to see when loading back in. Despite my efforts to save the Carno, it did not go well, and first I died before the Carno closely followed me. Get off my raft! I did eventually manage to take out the 120 RG that had been terrorising me, and then focused on regrouping once more. I picked up the bags from my raft that the RG had rudely destroyed, and then found a level 90 Sabertooth on the beaches, whom I of course bowled with no problems, and then set about knocking out. It went out without a problem, and I then used the prime meat that I had gotten from the RG to tame it up. I made up a saddle and I was now back on a mount, before realising that this Sabertooth was not quite the powerhouse that I'd been hoping for. I can't even kill anything on this Saber, it's actually useless. Oh, nice! Nice, just your standard heatwave on the islands, you know, just 104 fortitude. Yeah, it doesn't make a difference, mate. And now I just probably can't do anything because I probably spawn in dead. Yep, it's so much fun. Despite having a whopping 104 fortitude, it appeared that coming into this challenge, I had seriously underestimated how brutal the temperatures can get on the island. Oh! After eventually finding myself able to set foot on the island without dying, I contemplated my poor decision to go to Carno Island this early in the game. Nevertheless, nothing could be changed now, and instead I'd set my sights on finally taming myself an Argentavis. Right, time to go find another Argy. But the first one that we actually went for decided that he fancied having a nice nap in the water, thus dooming himself to death. Not long after though, I found myself a level 115, which was a much better level anyway and would be a great first Argy. Shooting off the back of my Saber and running around in circles, I managed to get its torpor up and did actually manage to get it knocked out on land this time. I then had the task of getting some prime meat, but taking on 2 full-size Carnos was not my smartest idea. Where's that poor defenseless baby Carno? I actually decided to tame this level 105 baby Carno, who became perhaps the shortest lasting tame in Rampy history, as it was killed by my beloved raptors within seconds. But these raptors were about to become the greatest menace of this challenge so far. Hey, come back here! No, it's 98% done. It's 98% done. I'm genuinely sad. As I suddenly caught them making a beeline for my 98% completed Argentavis tame. These raptors were not done yet though, as they tracked down my out of stamina and low health Sabertooth and took it out, leaving me once more with absolutely nothing to my name. The early days of this run had left me battered and bruised, and the only thing that I had to show for it was some raptor hostages who decided to come with me on my raft. Thankfully, I did manage to ditch the raptors at some point and return back to the island where I could quickly grab my stuff. With no tames, I now set my sights on getting back to the Pteranodon and performing what I called the Run of Destiny. Essentially, I was trying to spawn on the west side of the map nearest to Pteranodon and reach it without taking a single speck of damage, which was going to be one hell of a task. 500 meters. Why am I suddenly dying? What am I dying to? What did I just die to? Did I just die to? Oh, I just died to water, didn't I? I just died to water. A task that was made that much harder as I was continually finding myself short on water as I had almost reached the Pteranodon. I'm like dying, and I can't sprint, but I'm not dead. I can't even spawn in. It's too hot. I did eventually manage to reach the Pteranodon though, and after picking it up, I headed back up north, as I wanted to loot the supply drops there. The first drop I found was exactly why, as it had a Mastercraft Rex blueprint in it that would certainly be useful for the latter stages of this challenge. I then worked on getting my base set up. I was going to have to get this base set up close to the beach, as it seemed to be the coolest area of the map, and it was of course close to water, as well as of course away from any dangerous predators. So I made up my starting stone foundations, placed them down along with a fair few beds in case of emergency, as well as the essentials such as a campfire, mortar and pestle, and a smithy. I then found this level 115 parasaur nearby, and as I was going to be in need of a berry gatherer, I decided to knock it out and tame it up. Back at base, I made myself up a sickle, and then gathered up a ton of fibre, before placing down a refining forge at base, and then making up a fabricator, which I then placed down on our row of foundations. The next day, I set off with our Pteranodon once more to the dreaded Carno Island, as I was constantly checking there for high-level Rex spawns. I didn't have much luck with the Rexes over there, so I did decide to tame up this level 105 Sabertooth. Unfortunately though, I made a rather fatal error when knocking this thing out, and managed to actually kill it before it fell unconscious. A bit confused, I sort of just stared at its dead body for a while, hoping that it would come back to life, but alas, that was not going to happen. So I got back on my Terra and headed over to the other side of the island, where I decided to turn my attention once more to an Argentavis. Unfortunately, this attempt went about as well as the last one, as I was unable to run back to my Pteranodon thanks to the fact that I decided to start crafting up some trank arrows while trying to knock it out. Not my finest moment. So I sailed back to the island on my raft and attempted a rescue mission on my Terra. I did manage to actually get it on follow and then get it out before making the rather smart decision that I would not attempt to tame any more RGs on this island, as it appeared to be a bit of a death sentence. Instead, I headed to the mainland and found this level 115 on the beaches just below Crystal Mountain. This time, instead of landing in the water, it landed just before the water, and luck was on my side for once. I took out this level 70 RG for some prime, and then fed it to the 115, meaning finally, after all the failed attempts, I had gotten my hands on an Argentavis. I wasted no time in putting it to good use, and after making it up a saddle, I headed off back to the area where I had originally tamed it at, and picked up a 125 Sabertooth. I was obviously going to need a saber to do some caving with, and this one was the best that I could find in the area, so I brought it back a little bit closer to base, hit it with a bowler and some trank arrows, and when it began to torpor run, I chased it down, and knocked it out with a final trank arrow. With the Sabertooth now mine, we set off back to base, where I dropped it off and then left to go get an explorer note on Crystal Mountain, which gave the Argentavis some nice XP. On the way back, I grabbed as much metal from the top of the mountain as I could physically carry, helped by the weight reduction given by RGs carrying metal and various other resources. I then left to my base where I unloaded the metal into the forge, and when I left it to smelt, I grabbed a nearby baby trike, which after killing its parents, I was able to easily tame up. It was now time to actually start building some walls on my base, something which I know is pretty rare on this channel. I placed down some stone fence foundations and a dinosaur gateway, but it didn't take me too long to get bored of this, and I left in search of an otter. Now, when you only have 1 HP and can die at any second, an otter would be the most important tame of this entire challenge. After a quick stop at the Frozen Frang Mountain to grab some last crystal, I soon found myself at the Green Obelisk, where I made up a cryo fridge and also 22 cryopods, which would be an ample amount for this challenge. Back at base, I made up a generator and placed it down in the middle of base, before heading into the ocean, where I attempted to tame as many ichthys as possible. This would be because the only way I was going to get these water artifacts was by doing as many necessary suicide runs as needed into the water caves. While you could breed up a water army of megalodons or tusos to take on these caves, it is certainly more efficient just to use a couple of dolphins and attempt to get some of the hardest artifacts this map has. All dolphins come with pretty decent stamina, and as you will get pretty much 1 or 2 shot by anything in the cave, with the eels and jellyfish being the main dangers, the level was not really a priority, rather than just having plenty to go around and plenty of suicide attempts. With all the ichthys tamed and in the cryo fridge, I placed down a bunk bed at base, as I needed to make something with the polymer that was about to expire, and then crafted up some narcotics, as nearby I had spotted something that I was very interested in indeed. This was of course a Rex, and a 145 Rex with 26 points in HP and 29 in melee, which was pretty good. I ended up shooting off the back of my saber-tooth to knock this thing out, as when you only have a singular HP, being on the ground on foot was never really going to be a good option. With the assistance of my new ramshackle crossbow, which had been found in a blue drop, I did manage to knock out the 145 Rex. After gathering some prime nearby, I put it on the Rex's body and waited patiently for it to tame nearby. It didn't come out with the greatest stats, to be honest, and it wasn't really going to be a breeder, but following on from taming it, I actually decided to head to the snow biome to look for another one, only to suddenly freeze to death. Even with my otter, the variation of temperature on the island is absolutely huge, and I had clearly underestimated it. With my stuff finally retrieved and the other pteranodon from the drop, and the Rex safely back at base, it was now time for some caves. Okay, into Carno Cave. Right, well, we're not cold, which is good. It's good. Rampy's gone the wrong way, but it's not so good. Carno Cave was the first cave that we went for, and as soon as I went into this cave, I went for the Hail Mary play of diving right to the bottom of the cave, attempting to jump off at the last second. Otter is not dead yet. I think it might survive, guys. What do you reckon? So I returned to the cave, pretty much accepting the fact that both my saber-tooth and otter were dead, which was going to be a big loss. Why did my saber-tooth kill a saber-tooth level 120? Why is it on the top of the cave? Let's go! The otter who lives. This time when jumping down in Carno Cave, I decided that getting off the saber was going to be a bad idea, and instead I just accepted that I was going to be taking a lot of fall damage. However, upon reaching the bottom, Ark decided that it was going to be pretty generous to me for once, and no fall damage was registered for some reason. Just ASA things. And at the bottom of the cave, I had an ace up my sleeve, and after reaching the artifact, I threw out my Rex, who dealt with all the nearby hostiles, and I soon found myself looting the artifact of the Devourer, our very first artifact of the challenge. I took out some more hostiles on the Rex, and then escaped out of the cave with the saber, and got ready for the next one, which was going to be the artifact of the Cunning. Okay, sharks. Don't get bitten by a shark. Now, the artifact of the Cunning is probably the second hardest artifact to get on the island, and I knew this was going to be tough, which is one reason I wanted to get it done as soon as possible. The reason this cave is such a death trap is because of what I will call Death Tunnel, which is a small enclosed space which leads to the artifact. Depending on your world, you can either get pretty lucky and not many creatures will spawn down here, or you can get unlucky and find a ton of them down here, as I did. I soon realised this was going to require some careful thinking, so I abandoned the Cunning and went down in search of a quick win in the lava cave down south, where the artifact of the Massive is. Unfortunately, however, my quick win did not quite materialise. There are so many creatures in this caves on ASA now that they are simply impossible to avoid. Even when I came back my Rex, I ended up contacting Mega Raids from the Bat, and soon found myself dead, and staring at the lava cave, which had to be said looked pretty. On my way back into the cave, however, I saw that the Rex had disappeared, so I just assumed that it had died, only to find out that it was actually very much alive. Guys, it's not dead. It was dead! It wasn't there! What do you mean it's not dead? Where is Rexy? So after realising that our Rex had been meshed, just like my body was in this cave at the start of this challenge, it was now gone and not to be recovered, meaning I had suffered another setback. Without any cave dinos pretty much, I was forced to come up with a bit of a master plan of sorts. I made myself up a ghillie suit and used some bug repellent that I'd found in a drop and headed back into the cave. There I hoped to sneak by all the mobs of hostile creatures without being detected at all. I thought that this was actually going to be pretty foolproof, until it wasn't. What? That was a good snipe. Despite my attempts to run this cave on foot, it became clear that it was just not going to be possible, and I was forced to give up and head home. I could do with a Megatherium for the swamp cave actually as well, so honestly a Megatherium might be what we need to go with. Only I couldn't even do that properly, as I had to take a quick break when the island got too hot for me. 112 fortitude and full ghillie. So, with what was meant to be one of the easier artifacts off the table for now, instead I headed off southwest of the map, where we went after our first water artifact, which was going to be the artifact of the Brute. Unlike the Cunning, this artifact for some reason was way too easy, as the cave had appeared to bug out and no dinos were here at all. It didn't feel great picking up this artifact, to be totally honest, it felt pretty cheesy, but still I was not going to turn down a free artifact if the game was offering one, especially when I only had 1 HP. With the first water artifact retrieved, I decided to go back to the Cunning Cave to see if I would have any similar luck there. As I swam through Death Tunnel though, admiring all the enormous amount of creatures around here, I did half wonder if all the brute creatures had spawned in this cave instead. I had to get all the eels out of this death chamber if I was going to have a shot at this artifact. They were just too fast and I would not have enough time to pop off the Ichthys and grab the artifact without them catching up to me and stunning both Dolphin and I. This, however, was going to be easier said than done, and it wasn't long before I'd lost a couple of Ichthys and decided to call it a day on this one once more. Instead, I turned my attention once more to Rex hunting. As we now had 0 Rexes again, over on Carnivore Island a 150 Rex had been spotted, and this had some pretty insane stats. Both 32 health and 33 melee would be really good pre-tame stats if they only had one of them, but to find a Rex with solid health and melee pre-tame was pretty incredible. I decided to actually do the smart thing this time and trap this Rex in some stone dinosaur gateways using a bear trap, which made the whole knockout process really smooth sailing for once, and once KO'd I put some prime on it and waited for it to tame. It came out with 49 points into HP and 43 into melee, which is honestly a really good Rex and one that I was really happy with. However, I was still going to be in need of a mate for this Rex, so I set off once more on the Argentavis and ended up stumbling across this 145 White Albino Rex near Green Obelisk, which was perhaps the most ideal place to knock it out possible as I was able to shoot down from the cliff above. At least I was able to do this until it started to run away, and I had to get down and dirty beneath the obelisk, as the Rex did everything in this power to get knocked out in the water. Unfortunately, the Rex won this battle, and went unconscious under the water, and despite its head appearing to be above ground, when I checked on it, it was sadly losing oxygen. One thing that I did note from my adventures with the Rex was that I desperately needed to get myself a better crossbow. So on Carno Island, I found an Alpha Raptor, and after flying in front of him continuously and hitting him in the head for some extra headshot damage, I soon took it down. It did reward me with exactly what I wanted, which was a journeyman crossbow. I then set eyes on another Rex, this side located on the northeast of Carno Island. I did manage to get it trapped in some stone gates, only to get killed by an Argentavis while attempting to track it out. Arriving back on the island on the Pteranodon, I did manage to get the RG away on follow, and then quickly returned to grab my stuff. Unfortunately though, the angry Rex that was stuck in the nearby gate still had decided to pick a fight with some Carnos, a fight that he was not going to win. So I soon found myself looking once more for a new Rex, and I found another level 70 male. Instead of trapping it this time, I simply ran up and down the beaches knocking it out on the Sabre, and with its lower torpor stat than some of the others, it didn't take too long to KO. I put some meat in its inventory before then leaving the island out of render distance while it tamed up, in the hope that it would prevent anything from attacking it this time. This seemed to work well, as upon my return to the island, the Rex had now tamed up and we finally had our mate boosted pair of Rexes sorted. Of course, the level 70 had low stats, but the hope was that we could get the stats of the male onto a female and then start breeding our boss Rexes from there. So I returned to base with my Rexes and then prepared to head out to gather some crystal, but of course the deadly Ark Survival Ascended crash happened and I had to reboot the game, which left me back at base. No bother though, as I put the Rexes back on mating and then left to go and gather some crystal from a nearby crystal mountain. I needed this crystal to make myself some air conditioners, as to hatch my Rex army I would need to get some aircons so they could actually hatch. Back at base, I placed the aircons down on the sand and began to hatch my first Rexes of the challenge. Most at this stage were going to be kept for breeders, so that I'd be able to pump out plenty of good stat eggs when the time was right. As we would only be beating the island on Gamma difficulty, I was confident that we wouldn't have to mutate our Rex line, as our starting stats were going to be good enough, something that was perhaps slightly naive of me. Anyway, after doing some more base building and Rex hatching, I left later that day to the snow biome, where I went after a 145 Megatherium. I decided to tame this in the hope that it would help me run the caves of the island, especially the Swamp Cave and the Lava Cave. It was a relatively easy knockout tame, and after taming it up and naming it after my editor, I returned to the Lava Cave with the Megatherium. One thing that I didn't actually realise about Megatheriums is that for some reason that none of these cave creatures don't actually aggro to them. This makes them a great option for not only killing the creatures, as I would have to do in the latter stages of this cave, but also for sauntering on past them as if they were never there. After a little bit of creature murdering aided by the bug buff, I soon found myself at the artifact, and a couple of risky jumps later over the lava, we had finally got ourselves the artifact of the Massive. Next up was the artifact of the Hunter, which can be found in the southwest of the map. After flying over on the Terror, I popped out the Megatherium in the cave and disposed of any nearby hostiles and grabbed the artifact. Probably the most simple thing that I had done on this challenge so far, but the Megatherium so far was making these caves an absolute breeze. Returning to base, I picked up some Rex eggs, did a little bit of base expansion work, and then left to go farm up some more metal, as I was going to need plenty for all these Rex saddles that I wanted to make. At base, I continued to work on the Rex army, as I aimed to put a nice army of 20 Rexes together that I could take down the Guardians of the island with. Before we could take on those though, we would need to continue our blitz of the island artifacts, and next up was the Swamp Cave. Potentially a rather tricky cave, but with the help of the good old Megatherium, this cave was once more pretty easy. I was slightly wary of the Arthropluras, who could have one-shot me in this cave, as if they destroyed my scuba I would die, but with the bug buff these things become pretty strong and take down almost anything in a singular hit pretty much. It's also pretty crazy for XP if you need any, but remember to wear a gas mask, or in my case a mix of scuba and ghillie, to keep you alive in this cave. After gathering the artifact of the immune, we left the cave and prepared to go for the artifact of the cunning once more. This time though, I had a plan. The first stage was to kite all the dinos away from the hole, which included the mosasaurs, tusos, and of course dreaded eels. Once that was done, I would then do a loop of the cave around the land and dive back into the water and attempted to head into the hole this time. It was clear, however, that the water hole was still far too full of eels, so I had to try and bring those away quickly also. After bringing the eels away from the actual artifact, I performed a quick 180 and headed right into the artifact chamber. Despite still having a pack of very angry megalodons chasing me and some eels not too far behind them, I did have just enough time to hop off my dolphin, grab the artifact, and then speed away at the speed of light. I was so relieved to have this artifact completed, and I could not have got out of this cave any quicker. As space was nearby, I decided to pop back into there quickly to hatch up some more Rexes to keep increasing our numbers. The next artifact was one that I was actually quite worried about. You see, this cave would not normally have been a problem, but when you only have 1 HP, that is just simply not the case. The Skylord cave was so narrow that I was not able to throw out my Megatherium, which left me peeking around corners with my primitive shotgun in the hope that I could kite the mobs away from the path to the artifact. I did eventually manage to make this happen with the help of some bug repellent, which I popped as I got closer to the artifact, and if you half crawl over this edge here, you can actually access the artifact of the Skylord from the ledge above, which saves you doing the last portion of the cave. Running as fast as I could out of this cave, I turned my attention to the last 3 artifacts we needed. The first one was going to be the artifact of the pack, which is located next to the swamp. The Megatherium came in pretty clutch during this cave, as well as a nice grapple up to the artifact chamber, which did save me swimming through the tunnels of Sarkos and potentially freezing to death even with the otter on. After grabbing the artifact, I had to make the slightly nerve-wracking jump down to my Megatherium, who was being attacked by a snake, but we did manage to make the fall without taking any fall damage, and it was then just a case of getting out of the cave. Next up, it was time for the Ice Cave, which I'm sure is one you've all been eagerly anticipating. Now, while the Ice Cave was always going to be fairly challenging, with the help of my otter and fur set, and of course massively helped by my ascendant fur cap that I had on, I was able to survive the weather effects of the cave pretty easily. I then also threw out the Rex in the cave and munched my way through the pack of direwolves and polar bears before arriving at the artifact of the Strong. If anyone is wondering how I was able to throw cryopods out in the cave, by the way, you are simply able to turn off ASA's cryopod change in the ini settings for your game, and I think most of us would probably agree that the cryopod change was pretty stupid in the first place. With the Strong collected, it was now time for the last artifact that we would need, which was the artifact of the Clever, located next to the volcano. This was a very straightforward artifact indeed, and thanks to the assistance of my trusty Megatherium, we soon raced in and out of the cave, collecting the Clever with us. With all the Broodmother, Monkey and Dragon artifacts collected, it was now time to pop off to Green Obelisk as the Rexes and I prepared to take on the Gamma Broodmother. We only have Prim saddles, because despite the fact I have a Mastercraft saddle BP, I'm poor. To be honest, I'm a very poor man right now. And yes, we should be fine. Health-wise, we're all doing fine, although some of them at the front are taking a bit of a battering, but we'll be fine. As the boss fight ticked on and the Brood's HP began to fall, I knew that I was correct in my assumption, but I was actually surprised at how much damage the Rex had actually taken. With the Broodmother down, I collected the element and of course the trophy from the drop that had spawned, and left to go to Blue Obelisk. It's time for the Monkey, which is arguably an even easier boss. So we got 19 Rexes and 1 Otter in this arena. My fur armor and Otter by my side, we began to throw out the Rexes. As this challenge was done on single player, it meant that I had to go to each of the corresponding obelisks for the boss fights, which was a little bit of a pain. Once the Rexes had been thrown out, we entered the Monkey Arena, where I got on my Rex and kited the Monkey down the stairs. This arena can also be a cold one, so it's important that you wear your fur and Otter, especially if you only have 1 HP. When doing this boss fight as well, it's important to fight it at the back of the arena if possible, so that it doesn't knock your Rexes off the cliff. Okay, Monkey's getting obliterated, we're good. Monkey is gone. The Monkey, despite doing a bit more damage than the Broodmother, has far less health, so this fight was also an absolute breeze. I knew, however, as I collected my element, and more crucially the trophy, that the next one was not going to be so easy. Little did I know though, as I lined up for the Rexes at Red Obelisk, as I prepared to fight the dragon, that this boss fight was going to be one for the ages. The reason the dragon is by far the hardest guardian of the lot is all down to its fire breath attack. Oh, he's going to smack them all with a fire breath. He's going to hit them all. Pain. So much pain. Which takes away 20% of your base HP in seconds. It is a deadly attack that can decimate even the greatest of Rex armies, and mine certainly were not at that level. Rexes are dying. Rexes are dying. Oh, we fell. 100%. I'm going to have to do the water cave again. No, Rexes are dying left, right, and centre. Oh, we're so dead. We're so dead. 40k left. Wait, we've lost mate boost. 30k. It's a 1v1. It's a straight 1v1. And we got that on fire again. We're dead. We're dead. Surely not. Surely not. I'm going to run out of bullets. This is going to break my heart. 10k. Come here, dragon. You're going down, mate. You're going down. You are going down. I'm not speaking. I'm not speaking. I am not speaking. This is interesting right now. I have 1 HP and I am stood under the dragon. Alternative video title, Dragon versus Metal Hatchet. It's under 2k HP. It's under 2k HP. I think we've clearly found that the way to beat the dragon on the island, guys, you don't need any Rexes. They're not really very useful. What you need to beat the dragon on the island is 1 HP, an otter for some motivational support, and a metal hatchet. What have I just watched? Well, not watched, played, seen, whatever, I don't know. Head's gone. The dragon's down. On the back of the most clutch thing I have ever done on Ark, I was on a high. And no wonder. The 3 Guardians were down, and after, of course, breeding up some new Rexes, it was time to take on the Tech Cave. The best thing about this whole situation is that I could technically have unlimited goes at the Tech Cave, as once you have the tributes, they will remain in the terminal even when you open the cave. But I had already practiced the Tech Cave in the build-up to this run, as I knew if I did not, it would be a lot of pain and misery. The Tech Cave itself wasn't something that worried me awfully too much, but we did lose a fair few Rexes to the lava, as getting 20 plus Rexes down a narrow corridor while solo is one of the worst things that can happen. Still, as we reached the end of the cave, I was relatively confident that we had enough left to have a good shot at the Overseer. The one dangerous point in this cave though is when you transition from the hot part of the Tech Cave to the cold part of the Overseer, and as I had to edge through the barrier and change my armor in a flash, I did briefly start to lose health, but not quickly enough to kill me, although I would now have to suffer the rest of the cave with flashing red on the bottom of my screen. The Overseer fight though was where things were going to be very tough. The drones, which normally do tick damage to your character, were the main issue that I was worried about. I could not afford to take the plan. We go in there, we set the Rexes on aggressive, on the Overseer, and we run as far away as possible. It's going to be an interesting one. Overseer. Yep, good. With a bit of testing and help from my community, we worked out that if you did have a high enough armor set above 1100, as long as the drones didn't hit you directly head on, you wouldn't take damage from the splash damage. Rather, your armor durability would take a beating, but you wouldn't actually lose any physical health. Oh, they don't even get one shot. They don't get one shot. Not with my primitive pump action shotgun, they don't. This did seem to be a little bit unreliable though from our testing, working some of the time, but not others. Oh, it's the dragon. Oh no, run. Get in the mix. No, not in the mix. So my strategy for the fight was pretty simple. Get on the Sabertooth and whistle the Rexes to the Overseer, and then sprint around the arena aiming to dodge both the Overseer dismount attack and also the drones. It was going to be incredibly tough, but there was no other way that I could do it. I need to get some stamina on my Saber, guys. Look at that Overseer health, it's going down fast. Brood mother! I think we have to do four bosses. Oh no. Oh, it's curtains. Oh, it's so curtains. It's so curtains at the end. No. Kill the Overseer. Kill him. Please. He's got 2k health left. Please, no. Rexes. I don't know what's happened to the drones. Oh, you're joking. You got that? They want another fight. They want to fight another boss. Oh, it's the dragon. It's the dragon. I'll try and get him stuck behind this pillar. Munch drone. Munch the drone. Yes. Oh, come on. 1k HP. This is it. Get it. Yeah. He's done. Oh. 3 Rexes left. But the island. Oh, no, hang on. I'm not in the circle. I'm not going to ascend. Am I going to ascend or not? I don't even know. No. Oh. The most stressful week. One of the most stressful weeks. Maybe the most of my YouTube career is done. Thank you all for watching. Well, there we have it. Ark Survival Ascended, the island beaten with 1 HP. This video was actually recorded pre-Scorched Earth, guys, and we've just finally got round to editing it and getting it out for you guys. If you did like the concept and want to watch me do this for other maps, let me know in the comments below, and perhaps we could even do a 100 days with 1 HP on other maps. If you enjoyed, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much to my precious Patreons for all their support, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care, and bye-bye for now.